movies because now we come to my favorite part to do with horror podcast here. So, what if you can see the screen before you? We have a tier list, and if you're unfamiliar with how a tier list works, essentially it's a fun little thing to do to like pass the time. People make tier lists for everything, and for this tier list, I went through a lot of different articles and everything to find what are commonly regarded as the scariest movies ever made. And I feel like there's definitely some that were not on those lists. Obviously, Incantation, which you all agreed was probably the scariest movie you've ever seen, is not.
I'm coming up on the bottom here, and I'm like, yeah, that is a scary movie. I can't believe I forgot about that. I must have locked it away in a part of my brain that only psychologists can access.
But simply how this is going to work is we'll just go movie through movie, and then you guys decide where it kind of falls in terms of like its scariness. So, and you can also kind of judge it on its quality. So Nightmare Fuel, meaning it's terrifying, just absolutely scary. Pretty scary is pretty scary. Good fright, it has a couple good scares. One good scare is like, I think what you kind of described, like maybe like a backloaded or like the big scares sort of. And then Brave Boys it doesn't really scare you that much.
Don't worry about that category.
Yeah. So to start things off, we have the American remake of The Ring from, I believe, 2002.
Yeah, Dama's favorite movie.
Yeah, so that was one of the three I had watched. I even watched it in the cinema because my twin brother talked me into it somehow. So for me, big time Nightmare Fuel. That was, like, if anything, that was the movie that made me go, no, I was right to avoid horror. I was so terrified. And it was like, right, never going through that experience again. That was friggin' horrendous.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty scary.
I reckon that was pretty scary to Nightmare Fuel, I think. But I'm happy to go Nightmare Fuel specifically for
me. Yeah, that's very subjective for me to say Nightmare Fuel, but let's chuck it on there.
So many of these are going to end up in that tier. I can just tell.
I know,
yeah. So then moving on to our first found footage movie on the list, As Above, So Below. Yeah. Relatively recent one.
All the way to the top, brother. Top man. I forgot when you were like, what's a scary film? And then the minute I saw the poster for As Above, So Below, I was like, oh yeah, that one absolutely cooked us.
Yeah.
That was so scary.
Great film.
Really good too.
Very effective.
What is Tomb Raider but terrifying and found footage?
See, now that I think that movie does what the Borderlands should have been, just underground the whole time.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But then moving on to the aforementioned Hell House LLC, where do we fall with this one? Because I find this one scary, but I know from what you've talked about, you do not find this one as particularly scary.
I think I found it. My wife hated it, like was terrified by this one. I think it was this was one where she actually woke up with nightmares later that night. So I definitely think we could probably spread that out a bit. I think we can put that into pretty scary. Pretty scary. Yeah.
Because the scares in it are big.
I think it is. I'll say this. I think it's pretty scary. I'm incredibly stubborn.
Yes.
If I wasn't so stubborn, I'd be like, it's a fault of you.
Yeah.
So then, another favorite of mine here, Sinister from 2012, starring Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
Pretty scary.
Pretty scary.
Pretty scary. Like, it definitely, watching it was an unpleasant experience.
Yeah.
But it's not one I jump to when people are like, oh, what's the scariest thing you've ever seen?
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that? I've seen that on like the lists listed as like the scariest movie of all time.
Yeah, right. I think it's because it has a rude jump scare during the credits.
I don't think people are as angry about that.
I'm furious with Derrickson for that. I thought I was safe reading about the grip and the best boy, but no.
Yeah.
I think if any jump scare from that movie probably is the reason why so many people think it's scary. I think it's the one involving the lawnmower.
Oh yeah.
That's a very intense jump scare. I saw that movie in the theaters and it scared the shit out of me. So but then moving on to another one that you guys mentioned, kind of the whole reason the podcast is around today, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Put that in the Brave Boys.
Yeah.
I reckon.
Interesting.
I reckon.
I think we could make the argument for one good scare because...
Oh, no, you're right, actually.
The body horror, like, I think you're blinded by Love Hearts. You can't help but love this movie so much.
I wouldn't say maybe Good Fright. Like
Good Fright.
It's hard. I do love it so much.
It's such just an enjoyable watch. That's hard.
One good scare.
One good scare.
One good scare.
Because I think my enjoyment of it defeats the fear that I have of it.
Yeah, and we've actually
I could put that on again.
Yeah.
I could watch that right now.
Yeah.
Right, cool. Yeah.
Easy.
All right.
Whereas there's some of these that I'm like, no.
Yeah.
All right. Now moving on to what is commonly considered a modern horror classic, Hereditary.
It's got to go in Nightmare Fuel because it's banned. We will never watch it.
It's on our band list. We are
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Midsummer was also on the band list for many years. We finally watched it last year.
Yeah.
But Hereditary. Yeah.
Nah.
We and look, it's one of those things that I know that we are making it so much scarier in our heads.
Absolutely. But knowing it exists gives me nightmares.
Yes.
No, that's
Well, well, I do recommend it, so hopefully one day it will be off the banned list. But
we've famously said if we ever sort of consider ourselves brave enough to finish this podcast, that'll be our final out.
Yeah.
That's how we know we've reached brave boy status.
Yeah.
But moving on to a bit of an obscure one. I don't feel like this one gets talked about too often, but I feel like definitely in the horror circle, this is one that gives even like the devout horror fans like some good scares. Martyrs, the original from 2005.
Also on the band list.
None of saying that, have we, boys?
Well, no, Tom, you've watched it because you're a maniac.
My partner loves horror, and she's always looking for movies that like will push the end, like something that will push the envelope and freak her out. And I came home once, and she was like 10 minutes in, and I was like, and we watched it, and to this day, Sean has never forgiven me, and I will never watch it again. I had a bad time. I hated it.
You didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
No, I know.
You have to watch it.
I know.
I was so angry at him when he told me that. I quit the group chat. I didn't talk to you for I don't know how long.
I reckon it was
24 hours.
I reckon it was at least 48. You gave me one word answers for a bit. But Martyrs and Nightmare Fuel because I didn't like it at all. I had a bad time.
Yeah.
I don't understand who that movie's for. What? Why?
You've seen one, Adam?
I actually have not seen this movie. It's been one that I have been really circling around watching, but the problem is it's one of those movies where like I want to watch it with a group, but no one in the group wants to watch it with me, and then it's a situation of like I feel like this is a movie where if I told people I was just casually watching this by myself, they're gonna like not want to be my friend anymore.
You're going on a watch list, like
exactly. But now moving on to probably the biggest heavy hitter on the list. This is the one that usually tops the list of scariest movies ever made. It's, you know, the director just passed away and everything. They're making another one this year, but it's the original The Exorcist.
Yeah.
My gut says pretty scary.
Yes.
I don't know if I would. Again, I think it's like fucking amazing movie. And very like the scenes that are scary. Yeah. They're so beautifully character driven and so like engrossing in everything that I don't think it's sort of constant terror the whole way through. Like something like The Ring or the other ones we've chosen.
I think that's why it's pretty scary because I could rewatch The Exorcist.
Oh, big time.
I think that's the gap between Nightmare Fuel and pretty scary. Could we rewatch it even though it is scary?
Yeah.
And I think The Exorcist is very scary. There's some chilling stuff in it, but I could watch it again.
Yeah.
I think it's Nightmare Fuel.
Oh,
okay.
And I think it's of the way it lingers with you way after you've watched it.
Right. Well, you're up.
Yeah.
It's not too bad.
Well, fine, you can put it in pretty scary, but
on the record, Sean, it's Nightmare Fuel.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But now moving on to one of my probably one of my personal favorites, underneath Scream and the original Fright Night. Lake Mungo is one of my favorite horror films. Sorry, boy. Where's Lake Mungo gonna go?
I think it's Nightmare Fuel.
Yeah, Lake Mungo's Nightmare Fuel for the same reason that
What you just said.
For
The
the
Exorcist.
Exorcist reasons, yeah, which is why that's
The lingeringness.
Yep.
I feel like that'll never leave my head.
Yeah, I've watched Lake Mungo so many times.
Yeah, you're crazy. I'll never watch it again.
I've almost bought it on Blu-ray like 3 times just this week.
Do it, mate.
I love it. I think it's great.
What are you
but
looking for?
it also
Treat yourself to a
upsets
horrible
me.
time.
It upsets me so much. It's great.
Yeah, great movie.
No, I agree. It's definitely not a fun watch. It is a horribly depressing movie, but it's just, I just have to give credit to a horror film that only technically has one jump scare in the entire movie, and it is easily one of the scariest jump scares, just purely on concept alone.
Yes.
Like
just to know what's behind that jump scare, which I think is what makes it, like we've talked about this on the podcast, where it's like a cheap jump scare where it's just like, and there's a shock. Like they're effective in the moment, but then afterwards you're almost like angry that it got you. With that one, because like you said, it's so, that is the epitome of the whole conceit of what she's going through and what this character has been living with, and sort of the reveal for us of the true terror of her experience. I'm trying not to throw spoilers out. But yeah, that jump scare is burned into our brains. It's like a photo negative. It's never leaving.
Yeah.
But now moving on, we have 3 more found footage movies. So you guys are going to enjoy that. First one we got here is kind of becoming one that's really starting to get, I think, recognition nowadays. Wreck.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I personally would put it in nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the ones that I watched with Horror Movie Dave, and the last 10 minutes I watched from the kitchen, so I could only see half the screen of my parents' house, so I didn't have to watch the whole screen. And then even rewatching it with you guys when we did it for the show, that last section is just so stressful and so scary.
It's a bad time, yeah.
But I'm wanting to put it in nightmare fuel, but I also know that there's a man at the end of this couch who went into defense mode like a Yu-Gi-Oh card and just blocked everything. Just the ultimate
Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Refused to be affected by the movie.
Yeah, Brave Boy.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No, it didn't get me. I didn't allow it to.
Yes.
So I'm happy to just go with whatever you guys.
I think for me, probably
mine's stricken from the record on this one.
Yeah, that's fair. I think pretty scary. Like those last 10 minutes, like you said. I think those last 10 minutes are definitely nightmare fuel. But as the whole movie, look, it's pretty freaking scary. Yeah, I think I want to say pretty scary, but I'm happy with
pretty scary.
All right,
I can live with that.
Pretty scary.
I do have a question for you though, Adam. We're about we've got 3 minutes to go. Most of the movies are in the top 2 tiers. How often is that when you do this sort of?
You know, I put Brave Boys in as a courtesy. You know, I thought maybe. I kind of expected, like with a lot of these movies, I'm like, okay, they're definitely going to be leaning more towards the top of the list. The Thing was kind of my, I'll throw him a bone. I'll be like, throw him a movie that I'm sure is like, it should maybe, but no, but it doesn't get any easier from here, because another movie we were talking about earlier, The Blair Witch Project.
I think, again, I don't know if it's just because it was the first one. For me, it's nightmare fuel.
It's the fact that it's so it's so scary, and you see nothing.
That final
shot is burnt into my brain hole.
Like, I wish that didn't exist in my head.
It's also, I think the reason it hits the nightmare fuel thing is that it's the way it plays with. You feel safe during the day, but you know that the daylight cannot last, and the closer it gets to dusk on every night, it just makes you want to just curl up and die.
Nightmare fuel.
Nightmare fuel.
We're throwing it in.
Done.
All right.
It's such.
I think the image, once this is all finished, will really help explain to people who have never listened to the podcast before what they're in for.
And I will say, I enjoyed watching some of these.
Oh, they're like terrific films.
You know, As Above, So Below is a great movie.
Yeah.
Too scary.
Yeah.
Like Mungo, I love. Just so scary.
Yeah. Even Blair Witch, I didn't fully recognize. There's a reason it sort of has been remembered for so long outside of it being one of the original found footage ones.
Yeah.
Because it's done fantastic. Like the way you feel like kind of safe, or like there's a bit of hope. But then looking back, you realize, no, as soon as they kicked those stones, there was never any hope for them. They were done.
Okay, now moving on to what is considered probably the film responsible for all the other great found footage movies we have nowadays, kind of kicked off the modern boom of them. Paranormal Activity, the very first one.
This is on the lower end.
This is interesting. Yeah. I'm thinking maybe Good Friday.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I think it comes from the fact that it is scary, and there are scary things in it, and there so many of the shots where, like, you know, the bed sheets ripple, that terrifying time-lapse sequence of we're just standing by the bed for like 3 hours, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're all really chilling. But I think it loses fear points because all of the terror is happening to a character who you hate. Who is her boyfriend? He sucks. He's a loser. She deserves better, and so she gets better.
I also think, at least for me, because we watched this one for a live episode we did here in Melbourne last year. So it's like you said, it's one of these sort of the original kicked off found footage. But we watched it, at least I watched it after having watched some really found footage that took that genre and really dialed it up. So for this one, it's like I almost saw its progeny first and then went back and watched it. So it didn't have quite as much of the effect as some of the other ones.
It was the training wheels for
As above, so below.
Right.
And now, well, before we get into The Grudge, just because we're talking found footage, another movie recommendation, just because that's actually one of the questions coming up will just be movie recommendations. But another one I actually just watched for the first time yesterday. It's called Savage Land. Came out 2015, and instead of it being found footage, it's more like found photography.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
And
I think it's already, boys.
Is it? Okay. Yeah.
I think it's a My Partner special.
Oh no.
Sorry, boys.
But now we come to the final movie here on the list. Another American remake of a Japanese horror movie. Some would say scarier than The Ring. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. The Grudge.
So I have never seen it.
We haven't done this one.
Wow.
Well, one for the podcast. Yeah. But I will say, I know of the image of the boy and the sound he makes.
Yeah.
And that alone is enough for me to go definitely in the top two.
Yes. I think the fact that we've avoided it tells us where it
says a fair bit in there. So
put it in Nightmare Fuel.
We were so close. I was going to say, we've never seen it. We can have at least one in the Brave Boys. We put the Grudge in the Brave Boys, and then everybody's like, oh, well, look at these guys. Look at these tough guys. They were able to watch the Grudge, but nope, we'll put it up there in Nightmare Fuel.
When it came out, my now ex-girlfriend, she used to do the sound. I never watched it. She would just do the sound.
That's why she's an ex.
That's why we're no longer together.
That's why you're not together.